In a world of rapid change and constant pressure, we're seeing leaders across every field fall into a trap, reverting to authority and control, casting rules aside to secure a false sense of power. But what if I told you that this behaviour isn't merely a leadership flaw? It's a psychological phenomenon known as social regression, which plays out across societies, organisations, and even in military settings. Social regression drives people away from their highest capacities and back to survival instincts, eroding systems of collaboration, respect, and justice. And I bet you've already worked out the irony. Democracy and international law thrive when rules are upheld, not disregarded. True leadership, especially in challenging times, isn't about bending or breaking the rules to win. It's about ensuring these rules are enforced fairly and consistently. When leaders do so, they don't just maintain power, they strengthen the very foundations of progress, cooperation, and accountability. This essential shift in focus reveals a powerful leadership lesson for us all. Claire Graves' 8 levels of consciousness, also known as spiral dynamics, describe the evolution of human values and behaviour in response to changing life conditions. These levels range from survival-based thinking, where individuals focus on basic needs, to higher stages of self-actualization and global consciousness, where individuals move from egocentric to more altruistic, systemic thinking. At the civic or service level, level 4, individuals and society shift their focus from personal survival 3 to the community, social harmony, and responsibility to the collective. This stage emphasizes belonging and loyalty, a sense of duty where individuals seeking to contribute positively to society and establish stable, structured systems like governments and social organizations. Leaders like Nelson Mandela exemplified these higher levels of consciousness, prioritizing justice, reconciliation, and global unity. Mandela's commitment to empathy, collective well-being, and social transformation reflected the values of spiral dynamics' higher stages, where cooperation and interconnectedness are central to one's worldview. As social psychologist Jennifer Mills explains, when leaders abandon the playbook to regain control, they actually end up creating more chaos, instability, and mistrust. The reaction mirrors the level 3 power response described by military psychologist Lieutenant Colonel David Kern, where leaders become erratic and self-serving, leaving those around them feeling unsafe and unsettled. The result is an environment where survival instincts override the collective mission. In high-stress combat situations, even experienced officers can fall into the trap of abandoning protocols. Lieutenant Colonel Kern notes that when calm is lost and the chain of command is disregarded, leaders revert to their most basic instincts. This leads to rash, impulsive decisions that often harm the mission more than help it. In such moments, junior officers must step in to stabilize the situation, sometimes treating their superiors like new recruits until order is restored. Corporate leadership meltdowns. During the 2008 financial crisis, top leaders in major banks under immense pressure bypassed critical risk assessments and ethical boundaries in a desperate bid to save themselves. In doing so, they destabilized not only their organizations but the global economy. Warren Buffett's famous quote, "You only find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out," is a reminder that when leaders fail to uphold their principles in times of stress, they expose themselves and their organizations to catastrophic failure. Sports leadership under pressure. A stressed-out coach may lash out at referees, abandon playbooks, or take over all decisions rather than trust their team. This reactive behavior often backfires, resulting in loss of trust and respect from both players and fans. Legendary coach John Wooden once said, "A coach is someone who can give a correction without causing resentment." Yet in high-stress situations, many leaders fail to embody this wisdom, turning a difficult game into a chaotic spectacle. Political power grabs. Throughout history, political leaders under stress or the threat of losing power have often turned to autocratic, abandoning democracy principles. They suspend laws, rewrite constitutions, and jail opponents, eroding trust with their people and the international community. These leaders eventually lose credibility and are no longer trusted to sit at the adult table of global diplomacy. Social regression explains a psychological shift that occurs occurs under stress. People who normally work collaboratively and think long-term fall back on survival instincts driven by power and impulse. This is a retreat from level 4 order in the spiral dynamics model, where people are guided by rules, systems, and shared goals, to level 3, where the focus is on power, control, and short-term survival. In extreme cases, groups can regress even further. Stress can drive groups even lower than the power-driven level 3 to level 2, a state marked by that tribal mentality. The military knows this shift well, especially units like the French Foreign Legion, where soldiers are trained to abandon individuality, binding their identity to the unit's rituals and structure. At level 2, there's no ego, no personal agenda, only tribe, the group. This level creates unity, but also dependency, where survival is tied entirely to the collective. Soldiers learn to live for the tribe, not for themselves, and find purpose in strict adherence to the group's traditions and rules. In organizations under stress, we see a different kind of regression. Some leaders fall into rock star behavior, abandoning structure for impulse, trying to change all the rules or skip them for power, and a vision of self-interest. These leaders stop respecting established processes and instead command based on their ego. Like soldiers who revert to level 3 power, these leaders become erratic and self-serving, creating more instability than the order they hope to impose. When the military faces this behavior, it leads to major consequences. To correct this, they intentionally regress these leaders to a level 2 mindset, stripped of their authority, and they're treated like toddlers, sent back to the basics, unable to sit at the adult table until they relearn the importance of respecting the group and adhering to foundational rules. Reduced to the terrible twos, they must earn back their place within the tribe, ultimately learning the value of shared order and mutual respect. Rebuilding from regression. In the military, this breaking down and rebuilding that helps individuals transition from survival mode into a state of functional mindset. The US Marine Corps and the French Legion use intense training to strip down recruits to a basic tribal mentality, level 2, and then build them back up with the values of loyalty, respect, and commitment to the group's mission, back up to level 4 and order. When soldiers are rebuilt, they operate at a higher level, understanding rules not out of fear, but out of a commitment to the system and to each other. The My Lai massacre, Vietnam, in 1968 is one of the most infamous instances of breakdown in military discipline during the Vietnam War. US soldiers, facing immense stress and frustration, regressed to a level 3 mindset, where power and immediate action ellipse the ethical conduct. In absence of clear oversight and undermounting psychological pressure, soldiers killed hundreds of unarmed civilians. This tragic event demonstrated how intense stress could push soldiers away from their disciplined behavior towards unchecked aggression, focusing on survival rather than following the rules. The disciplinary response? After the massacre, those involved were subjected to military trials. Lieutenant William Kelly, the officer in charge of the soldiers involved, was court-martialed and sentenced to life in prison. Though his sentence was later reduced, the aftermath also led to a re-evaluation of military command structures, training, and rules of engagement, aiming to prevent such breakdowns in discipline in the future. Military units involved were subjected to intense retraining programs, focusing on ethical behavior and the importance of following rules under stress and restoring trust in the command structure. And it was often rumored that the soldiers involved in that massacre had been sent to the jungle after the incident as a form of punishment. The intense and grueling training in the jungle was designed to break them down, exposing them to the extreme conditions and testing their endurance. Many believed they wouldn't survive the ordeal, and the psychological toll of this harsh punishment was thought to mirror the pressure that they had just faced in combat. It was seen as an attempt to address the ethical failure and to reflect the gravity of their misconduct. The military offers valuable lessons in rebuilding leadership after regression. For leaders in all sectors, there are key steps that can help transition from regression back to order. 1. Break down ego, build up unity. When you notice rockstar behavior, understand it's a form of social regression. Instead of reacting harshly, focus on breaking down ego by emphasizing the value of unity and shared purpose. This means setting aside individual success for collective accomplishment. 2. Reinforce rules and rituals. Rules are not just bureaucratic red tape. They are stabilizers that guide teams through turbulent times. Encourage routines, rituals, and common goals that bind the team together. Remind them that these systems are in place to guide, not to restrict progress. 3. Build with core values. Help individuals rediscover the mission and values that give their work meaning. By focusing on a shared vision, you can guide them from survival mode back to purpose-driven action. Moving beyond survival mode, a call for leadership. Stress is a natural part of leadership, but it's also how leaders respond to stress that defines their effectiveness. While it's tempting to revert to survival mode, to throw out the rule book when pressure mounts, true leadership requires maintaining order, unity, and integrity. When leaders hold fast to their values, they create stability, inspire trust, and guide their teams through even the most chaotic times. Remember, it's not about throwing out the rule book, it's about enforcing it fairly, consistently, and with a focus on the long-term vision. In times of crisis, leaders who can keep their cool and uphold these principles earn respect and the trust of their teams, strengthening the foundations of progress and cooperation. Let's rise above the impulse to regress and build leadership based on shared values, unity, and purpose. As leaders, it's essential to recognize when social regression occurs and take actions to rebuild trust, unity, and purpose. By embracing shared values, reinforcing rules, and focusing on long-term goals, you can navigate stress with resilience and lead your teams to success, no matter the pressure. Let's choose order over chaos, unity over division, and purpose over survival, because you're perfect just as you are.